Hi. Here at the Bruce the Monk page, one of the things that I do is if somebody asks me a question or challenges me with an idea or asks me to review something, I do that. Right? I don't think that it's my place to have a sermon or a lecture or a lesson every week, but I deal with things as they come to me. And so my buddy ReplayNay, who is a young man starting to get going as a YouTuber doing gaming and stuff, asked me to check out this really hideous pro-Nazi propaganda bullshit piece. And I thought I'd dig in. But it isn't enough to just call it names. That doesn't help. It doesn't give anybody the tools to sort out this kind of BS in the future, and it doesn't rebuke somebody trying to sell really hideous evil to kids. So let's get started. I'm going to put the link in the description below because I can't stand to listen to this woman one more time. I've already done it like 3 times. I'm going to go off her transcript, which will save everybody a time. You won't have to spend a lot of time watching me go, no, to her video. But she put the full transcript up. And real quick, here's a lesson in evil, right? Real evil in life doesn't come up to you dressed in black, saying, join the Sith, we have cookies, or else... Real evil tends to be pretty, attractive. Sin feels good right away, The drug dealers get new addicts by giving you a free dose of the drug, and then amazingly, drugs feel good and you want more. This doesn't just have to do with chemicals, right? A lot of evil things. Here, just take 1 beer, just have a little bit of premarital sex, and on and on. So here, to seduce people to a really freaking evil idea, you have a picture of a pretty girl and a soft voice and beautiful pictures of Austria after it was annexed from Germany. But hey, it's okay. We're not going to take pictures of the industrial ruin that Germany created in order to fuel its war machine. High piles of slag and smoking chimneys, etc., because that's not going to sell the message. And somebody my age who's, fat, overweight, middle-aged guy, it's not really going to sell the message. Let's get a beautiful, pretty, girl, maybe late teens, early 20s, because then people want to listen to her because hormones are a thing. So let's get on with the lies. Okay, so for starters, first point, and it takes about 7 seconds to get to the first thing I disagree with. And this is the line: the media and the school systems have told you all your life that Adolf Hitler was the most evil man ever to live. Yeah, no. I'm a Bible-believing Christian, right? I'm a medieval Lutheran. So what that means for me is when you ask me who's the most medieval, evil person ever to live, I actually go, this is going to surprise you, I actually go to the book of 1 Timothy and the Christian New Testament, where Paul, the guy who ended up spreading Christianity to the outside of the Jewish world, he said, this is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. And so I don't get into, you're way more evil than him. Oh yeah, well, you're as bad as this person. You're just like Hitler, right? I don't buy that, right? I don't do that because, among other things, the example I have in my faith is I'm the most evil person I know. And how I can say that is I have the example of Paul, and I'm the one who knows all my sins and temptations and failures. I don't know all your sins and temptations and failures. I don't know where you succeed, and I don't know where, I have some because I like history. I know some of the things that happened in Hitler's life that drove him to do what he did, but I don't know all of them. So, and if we want to just go from a secular historical point of view, I don't think Hitler is even the worst person in the 20th century. Yeah, he did his evil in a big, flashy way, but Hitler killed like 6.5 million Jews and incinerated in furnaces, and his wars caused about 20 million deaths. And that's bad. America, I was born in the first year that abortion was legal in America. 1 out of 4 of us conceived that year were killed before we could ever see the light of day. And since then, America's killed 40 million of its own kids, but we do it in a doctor's office instead of in a concentration camp. So that's okay, right? If you want to go for shooting people and torturing people to death, Stalin, 35 million people dead in his rule. Mao, in 7 or 8 years, 150 million of his own people starved to death just because we had extra. If you want to go percentages of the population, another communist, he's sensing a theme here politically. So another communist would be Pol Pot, and he killed about 25% of his own whole population with the Khmer Rouge, right? I mean, Hitler didn't have the market on evil, but he's easy to pick on because he's dead. And unlike the communist leaders, there aren't really a lot of college professors telling you what a great idea it was to follow Hitler's ideas. And there are actually a lot of college professors who want to raise young skulls full of mush with the idea that following the communist ideas that led to 5 to 10 times more dead people than Hitler and all of World War II put together just in peacetime, and they only killed their own citizens, not our citizens, so we don't care. So I don't really get into this, but right off the bat. Okay, she says, Churchill once said the victors wrote the history books. What we hear about Hitler through the media and the school system is extremely biased. And here's 17 seconds into the video, and here's your next lie, lady. We don't have this evil, hideous view of Hitler from the victors. The victors didn't write this, right? If this was 1,000 years ago, Churchill's quote would be true. But the Nazis were such arrogant, evil schmucks that they recorded it themselves. We don't have to go with what the victors want. We use their own words. There's a Stroop report. Generalleutnant Stroop, that was a head of Waffen head of the Waffen SS, and the National Security Police. He had his troops photograph and videotape slaughtering Jews in Warsaw when they dared fight back instead of being put in cars and shipped off to be incinerated. We don't need to ask the victors who eventually defeated the SS, because the SS documented it. They were so proud of what they were doing that they made like their own PBS specials. Look how awesome we are. We're slaughtering people left and right. No, it isn't lies from, it isn't afraid being offended the Jews. These are your own words. These are your own people. You are proud of this, you arrogant, racist, murdering schmucks. And so, 17 seconds in, you got your first lie. Awesome. You want to tell me why Hitler wasn't evil, but the opposite of that, a very strong leader and a brilliant man. Okay, he may have been, we can argue about whether or not he was brilliant. He was definitely strong. Big deal. It doesn't matter if somebody's big or strong. Big or strong isn't good enough. It's particularly in a leader or a father figure, right? Would you rather have a father who's a millionaire inventor, a 5th-degree black belt, but he beats his wife, molests his son and daughter? Oh yeah, and he got his money to get it started by killing his neighbors, taking everything they had. He incinerated the bodies and the ashes are burned in the backyard. That's basically Hitler. Or would you rather have a father who's lower middle class, keeps his family in clothes and food, and they're never going to be rich or famous, but everyone in town knows well how well he treats his family and how kind he is to everybody else, and he has this legacy of love and kindness and generosity? Father type number 1 is way smarter and way stronger than father type number 2, and you could not put a gun to my head and choose father number 1 over father number 2. So I don't care how big or strong Hitler was. He was freaking evil, and we'll get into that. But you go on and you keep telling your lies about him, because we're going to really get in there. Hitler really cared about his people and his country that he institutionalized. Well, Germany, Deutschland was a country before Hitler. I'm sorry to break this to you. And his people, yeah, he absolutely cared about his people. You know who his people were? His people were Aryans. And for the rest of this video, every time this witch talks about, oh, he cared about his people and his family, what you have to realize is she's only talking about blonde-haired, blue-eyed, German or Norse-descended people. Nobody else was really a person. You doubt me? Let's dig into the record a little bit, right? Because I don't want to just rant and ramble without giving you facts. Though if you want to go to Wikipedia and read about Jurgen Stroop, he's a good example of what I mean about evidence. Let's talk about, and Lebensborn, that'll go over. His Nazi wife was so obedient to him, even though he was constantly going to the Lebensborn. What's the Lebensborn? Oh, funny you should ask, because we'll talk about how pro-family, Hitler's Germany was. The Lebensborn was this project to create Leben. All right. So let's first give you the translation really quick. Lebensborn eingetragener Verein, or the Fountain of Life registered association. And this was set up through Germany and the Norwegian culture. The idea was that we needed to produce good Aryan babies, because remember, our country only means people of my particular race, and everybody else is impure or unclean. And so they would have brothels. This guy Stroop, just as an example of this pro-family society that Hitler created, because he cares so much about his Germany and his people. They wanted to raise the birth rate of Aryan children, not children in general, not children of German nationality, but children of one race and one racially pure identity. And on this eugenic bullshit, racist, bigoted, murdering principle. And so they would have, the government would certify that these unmarried women were German enough or Aryan enough, and then it was mostly made for the SS, and the SS, of course, were of pure German descent. And so you had your pure German men running off, and basically you had state-run prostitution rings of German descended people, and maybe most of them even volunteered. Right, that's very pro-family, because the family values crowd is always saying we need more prostitution rings in our cities. No? Weird. Also, there was they adopted kids who were from racially pure and healthy. Of course, if they had to kidnap thousands of them from Poland, take them from often living parents, brainwash them into believing that they were German, because they would kidnap children at 2 to 6 years old, and if they didn't just shoot the parents to take the kids, then they would brainwash the kids into believing that they were German, and then give them to a German family so they could be raised German, because Germany über alles. Very pro-family. You lying, deceiving witch. Keep going with your points. We were told lies, you most likely believe them. I'm listening to lies right now, and I don't believe them. Hitler took the broken republic Germany became after the First World War and turned it into one of the greatest empires ever. That's true. He did it by murdering, slaughtering, stealing, and uniting people, not behind pride in themselves, but hatred of the other. Not because of their own achievements, but out of destruction of the other. These people, if you read their writings, and I have read the writings, they embrace the idea that they were barbarians. The fact that they referred to themselves as Übermensch goes back to this philosopher named Nietzsche, who said, once the reality of right and wrong, once the reality of absolutes, this is actual wording, is denied, right and wrong comes into a question of force. And they decided, fine, we're going to be the most powerful, the most forceful, because this is what evolution teaches, and they were really big evolutionists. Their whole Aryan purity thing was they thought they were the best race ever, so evolutionary-wise, they were going to wipe out all the other inferior copies, and all of the human race would be advanced, because they'd be descended from our elite group. And of course we had to kill all the others, but that's just what nature does. Read Darwin. He put 6 million unemployed Germans back to work. Yeah, he did that too. He did that by creating, because you took jobs to create this war engine to conquer all of Europe. It's not really, hard work is a good thing. When you're working really hard to get the tools to kill everybody in the next town and take all their shit and then make, that isn't a really glorious way of making your town great. We call those people murderers, brigands, pirates, butchers. I can keep going. And this is, and we're back to strong versus good. Hitler, absolutely strong, in no way good. Oh, he noticed the birth rates were critically low. Aryan birth rates. I mean, after all, we're busy killing all the Jews and kids. Oh yeah, we're going back to the Lebensborn. Let's talk about the fact that if you were taken and then they would examine they would kidnap the kid, examine the kid, and if the kid in this family-friendly Third Reich didn't meet the examination of the doctors, a lot of times they just shoot them right there. If they didn't shoot them, they'd send 2 to 6-year-old children to work camps to be worked until they died, right next to the other people being exterminated in the work camps. Like, 6.5 million Jews. Did I say that out loud? It's so impolitic of me. Let's keep going. Here's the next quote. Hitler was a very compassionate man. As long as you had his blood, he agreed with all of his politics, etc. Let's talk about the people Hitler didn't have compassion on. And this would be Aktion T4 or Tiergartenstrasse 4, which is named for one of the departments that ran it. And this was, they judged, under this program, German physicians would judge whether or not you deserved life. And if you didn't deserve life, they would give you a clean death. They'd euthanize you. And here's those who are called Lebens und Wertes Lebens, life, unworthy of life. Prisoners, dead. Degenerate, meaning maybe you had a fetish, maybe they found porn with you, right? Dead. Dissident, you voted for somebody else. Dead. People with cognitive and physical disabilities. You have a low IQ, you're dead. You have epilepsy, dead. Schizophrenic, dead. You have manic depressive, dead. Cerebral palsy, kill them. Muscular dystrophy, kill them. They're deaf, kill them. Blind, kill them. And this leads to the pictures that this woman is showing you on her video of these crowds of healthy, strong, happy people. They sterilized more than 400,000 people against their will. So let's say, Nate, you asked me to look at this. Let's say if you had a speech impediment and it wasn't quite, you could still see and hear and you voted right, and maybe your parents were German enough, so they wouldn't shoot you or send you to the gas chambers or work you to death in a concentration camp. But say at 13, 14, 15, they might tie you down to a table, cut off your balls, and let you work for the Reich, sterilized against their will. And, only another 300,000 killed under Action T4's euthanasia program. So that's 700,000 victims under Captain Compassion. Why are people giving this guy a bad rap? Oh my God, it's so unfair. Unbelievable. But let's look at who he did have compassion for. He was a vegetarian and he protected animals. That's right. Let's think about this. Bambi is worth more than you because you have a cleft palate. Die. That's compassionate. He regulated how many animals could be killed by hunting per year, and while his men photographed, and took videos of how many Jews they could kill every year. And before the Jews, it's important in American politics to be, gay friendly, and I don't approve of attacking or bashing anybody because they have homosexual issues. I don't really approve of the lifestyle, see medieval Christians, but I approve of the people because God doesn't make junk. Nope, not very compassionate Hitler. Before they started shipping off the Jews en masse, you know how they got this program started of concentration camps? Gypsies, who were an unpopular ethnic minority, and homosexuals, and again, everybody who didn't vote for Hitler in the last free election that they would have for 20 years, kill them all. Very compassionate, but hey, he loved puppies and he was a vegetarian. I'm so moved. He didn't only care for the health of animals, but he cared for the health of his fellow German citizens. Look, I'm going to try and get that out again. Here's the quote. Hitler didn't only care for the health of animals, but he cared about the health of his fellow German citizens. He was very straight edge. He didn't drink or smoke. Does that does that counterbalance? Does that kind of balance out the fact of the chimneys in Dachau that were burned with human beings for the crime of being born from a different religion? You murdering apologist for Nazi scum? Oh, getting a little emotionally involved. He wanted his citizens to be happy and healthy. Now notice, we're talking citizens. So if you aren't a citizen, you don't count. You're not a person. You might have dark hair. You might have a long nose. They literally measured your nose. This is a good question of whether you should die because you were too Jewish. Hitler loved art since he was an artist himself. Really? He loved art and music? That's funny. Have you watched the movie Swing Kids? There was actually a rejection. Teenage kids, right? Boys and girls, 14 to 18. They didn't want to be part of this Nazi murdering fascist bullshit. And they embraced actually American jazz music. And they would have swing clubs. They weren't fighting anybody. They weren't burning anything. The only thing they did was their culture wasn't German enough. And they got sent to they were beaten in the streets. They were sent to concentration camps. They were arrested and never seen again. And we can just assume they were shot in alleys because we have no proof otherwise. And they kind of had a habit of doing this kind of stuff. So he wanted his citizens. But the thing is, if you voted wrong, believed wrong, spoke out wrong, looked wrong, got sick in a socially unacceptable way, you weren't a citizen anymore. And we don't have to have compassion on you. And that's the German way under the Third Reich. Let's skip that part because modern American schools aren't going to get to teach kids to go that much research, which is one of the reasons why I'm staying up. It's 4:45 in the morning right now, and I'm still making this video because somebody has to tell the truth. Oh, and Hitler, the art lover, he was a failed landscape painter. His landscape painting was so bad they wouldn't even give him an interview at art college. Well, he got an interview. They basically laughed him out, and one of the people on the on the panel was Jewish. So you take a little racist schmuck, you give him a single excuse, and wow, the blood hits the walls. He wanted all his citizens to be happy and healthy, and he wanted everybody who wasn't his citizens to be under his boot heel or freaking dead. That kind of balances off the whole compassion thing, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure Genghis Khan liked his kids. That didn't stop him from butchering and slaughtering his way across Europe and Asia and North Africa, wiping out entire villages just to take their stuff and keep on writing. Caring about your children isn't enough, right? Good and evil isn't a balancing act. It's not a math equation. Nazis made most innovations to film and science in general, like the first ever jet engine. And check out the picture of the first ever jet engine. You know what it is? It's a picture of a giant cannon used to fire rocket bombs to butcher and kill innocent women and children during the Blitz in London. I mean, they were so concentrated on burning down the cities of the one country left in Europe that dared to resist, which would be England. They didn't care about killing kids. They liked it. They didn't care about killing families. For the love of God, they photographed it. They brought, the Stroop report. They bragged about it. They were proud. They weren't photographing this as some great tragedy when they were emptying out the Warsaw Ghetto. They were they were posing like people who had just won a big safari hunt. This is how willfully evil the Third Reich was. Don't listen to this witch. She's not going to tell you the truth. And we don't have to listen to the victors write the history because they recorded it. They bragged about what they were doing. Ugh. So the jet engine was invented to kill, it wasn't even they eventually made a plane out of it. It was a pretty good interceptor, except it didn't have any landing gear. But that being said, it was the first, that was a later generation. The initial reason they invented rockets was to be able to attack civilian targets in England. Isn't that great? I mean, people who invent better ways to kill civilians, their scientific advancements, we should really praise them, like she's doing. He didn't want his citizens overworking themselves. We have slaves in prison camps to do that. So he funded workers' welfare programs like vacation trips, a free radio for every citizen, and he was the first to introduce the 40-hour work week. Yeah, if you notice that there's a lot of similarities in Hitler's policies and say, the socialist party's policies going on in Europe right now, you're not wrong. Hitler was pro-gun control. Hitler was pro-free abortion. As long as you weren't having a German baby, then you better have that German baby. We need more German babies. And by German, I mean Aryan. And everybody else in Germany who isn't Aryan should shut up or die. You're probably thinking, well, it's nice that Hitler gave the Germans those wonderful benefits. The Germans who were left alive, you mean? But what about the Holocaust? Quote, I am personally a Holocaust denier. Enough said. It's very clear to me that the events of the so-called Holocaust are very exaggerated. And honey, I'm sorry. We have your records. We've got the Nazi records. It's hard to exaggerate something like 35 tons of hair gathered by women, cut off of women before you killed them so that you could make wigs out of their hair of the people you've just murdered. It isn't just Jews. We have the Diary of Anne Frank, right? Her family were Christians in Amsterdam. I've seen her house where she and her family were sent to go die alongside the Jews that they hid from getting murdered by you. We read the book Night by Elie Wiesel. He was there. We have the eyewitness accounts of the people inside. And again, this is a modern era. This didn't happen 3,000 years ago where there's some ambiguity. We have video recordings by the American troops as they came in. We have the pictures you took of dead, naked bodies stacked like cordwood because you just didn't care enough to bury them. We have the medical documentation. You people would tie women and men down and peel them like grapes to see how much pain it took to kill someone, because it was better to torture one of your prisoners to death over and over and over, than to do animal experimentations. And that's where your values lie. You're right there with PETA and other tree-hugging groups. One of the reasons I don't support them is I don't think animal life is less important than human life. Unless, of course, you vote Democrat. Unless you're Aryan. All right, that's really all I've got right now. You lying, evil, treasonous witch. This video is full of half-truths. It's amazing how much absolute bullshit you can put out, telling like something is 30% true and it's lies. And this is nothing new. This goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, right? When Satan comes up to Eve, and Eve says, hey, you should really eat of that fruit that God said don't eat. And Eve said, that's a bad plan. And Satan says, Eve says, well, if we eat of it, we'll surely die. And Satan says, you will not surely die, but you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. One of those three statements was true. You would know good and evil. They didn't become like God, because, I've been to Detroit, and God didn't make Detroit. God didn't make Detroit look like a nuclear fallout shelter. We did. And we started dying. That's 1/3 of the truth is usually all that it really takes to convince people of really hideously evil things. This video is an example. If you have other questions, you have something you want me to clarify, you want to check out some of the source material that I've got, there's an American Holocaust Museum. I really recommend the book Night by Elie Wiesel. It's really good. The people trying to work to death but under Oskar Schindler, Schindler's List. Here's another great story told not by the victors, but Oskar Schindler was a Nazi Party member, and the Schindler Jews were prison camp victims. That isn't the victors writing the stories. That's the victims writing the stories. And you know what? The entire justice system is the victims writing the stories, right? We have rape victims talk about what happened to them so we can send the people who did it to prison. We have, if somebody who's being murdered or somebody trying to be murdered, they manage to scribble down a description of their confessor, of their attacker, that goes into court. That gets looked at. A lot of this, we have Hitler's own speeches. It will take me a little bit. Let me see if I can find it. So let's see. came across this earlier in the week. Whoa, I hate you, Google. I can't find it. Here we go. Tomorrow history, Adolf Hitler quote, tomorrow's history about me will be incorrect. They will call me a dictator responsible for the genocide of millions of Jews. The day will come the world will realize what I did was correct. I destroyed 90% of the Jews and leaving 10% of them for the world to understand why I killed them. Another favorite Hitler quote, there is no conscience. Jews invented the conscience. I like that one. That's pretty good. I can't find it. Earlier this week, I was watching one of Hitler's speeches to do research following up this first one, and I saw a speech in which Hitler is saying, you can't why does anybody condemn me if I can send thousands of our good German young men to go fight and die for the country, why can't I send millions of Jews off to their death, the deaths that they deserve? So, again, I don't have to go to the victors. I don't have to go to people rewriting history. I can use his own words to prove that he was an evil, lying, bigoted, murdering slime. But hey, thanks for playing. So, Nate, I hope that answered everything for you. Again, if you have any more questions, I'm going to try and put a lot of links in the description, and hopefully you can update that one. It's almost 5 o'clock. I gotta get some sleep, and I still gotta write a book, and I got 10 hours of manufacturing work to do today. So, hooray! I miss homework. Okay, so this is my latest Bruce the Monk video. God bless. Peace.